Everyone, it's Kim and welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. Welcome back to Bookmarks and Breadsticks. If you're new to my channel, I specialize in the world of food writing. I read predominantly nonfiction, but I do dabble in foodie related fiction from time to time. You'll notice I have a new setup because I have a new book nook, bookshelf wall. I'll have a tour of it coming soon. I'm just super in love with it. But now I can film standing up and then my back doesn't hurt as much. So this is a grand addition to the space. I am here today to bring you my June wrap up. I have read 7 books this month, which is a really nice pace for me. And I finally feel like I've been getting my mojo back in my reading. If you guys are new to my channel, I used to post 2 times a month. And then around April hit a really bad reading slump and dropped down to 1 video a week. And sorry, I used to do 2 videos a week. Now I'm at 1 video a week. I just started at the end of June bringing 2 videos a week back because I finally feel amped to film some content. So it's a really, really good feeling. This month felt super awesome. So let's get started and let me start with the 2 fiction books I read this month. First, I read Gouda Friends by Kathy Yardley. This is actually the 2nd book in a series. Her first book is called Love, Comment, and Subscribe. I didn't realize that when picking up the book. You actually don't need to know the first book to read this book. I think I missed some of the Easter eggs. There are lots of intersecting characters that the characters from the first book are in this book, but they're much more like Easter eggs, like oh, I recognize these characters. So this one is a cheesy romance and it's about Tam and Josh. So Tam and Josh are childhood best friends. They're part of the herd from their small town. Tam moved to New York City to get a job and has kind of been working way too hard and being overworked by her team and not getting the money she deserves. And one night after a terrible day, comes home to find her boyfriend of many years in bed with his ex. And her whole life falls apart. So she calls her childhood friend Josh and uses the code word goldfish. And from there, she books a plane, heads home to their small town, and stays with Josh. Now, Josh, a few years ago, called a goldfish for Tam. His life was falling apart and she helped him create and just put his life back together, and now he runs a multi-million-dollar ghost kitchen setup. So the roles have very much reversed. These are definitely this is a childhood friends to lovers trope, but of course the Gouda Friends, the cheese reference is that Tam, the thing that broke the camel's back for Tam was that her boyfriend not only cheated on her, but threw out her emergency cheese. And it all just spirals from there. So really you're going to follow dual perspectives, Tam and Josh, but I'd say the character who goes on more of the emotional journey is Tam, who's trying to figure out what she actually wants to do with her life instead of just picking these assistant jobs that seem to go nowhere. Next up, I have a book called Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. I really have to thank Jessie and the NB Book Club, who they covered this book. Jessie really is helping me find more diverse reads. TJ Alexander is a non-binary author, and this book features a non-binary protagonist named Ray. If you are friends or fans, of Bon Appetit, if you loved Claire Saffet's and Gourmet Chef Makes, this is the book for you. I have a full review of this book, but just wanted to also give a plug out to Jessie and Jessie's other channel / book club, the NB Book Club. This was a really fantastic read and the first time I've read a romance with a non-binary, protagonist. Really eye-opening, really fun, and it didn't matter. I don't want to say I don't know why I waited so long. I just wasn't sure what to expect, and really nothing different about it. It was still a rom-com that I loved, was funny, hilarious, and highly recommend if you are a fan of Bon Appetit or the YouTube culture of YouTube chef videos. So I have 5 nonfiction books that I read this month. First, I'll start with Serve the People by Jen Lin Liu. This was my Unwrap My TBR book for the month of May into June. It took me a while to read this book. If you guys don't know my Unwrap TBR project, I'll link it up in the cards and down below, but essentially I have an overflow of 100+ books that I bought in 2019 and 2020 in the starts and early aughts of the pandemic. I've wrapped a lot of those books up, and every month I pull one off the shelf to read, and this was the book that I vlogged and read. So I won't go into too much detail here about it, but Serve the People is about Jen's journey in China to understand cooking. She goes from her time in cooking school to working in a dumpling shop and a noodle shop, and it was a lot of fun, and I really recommend. Next up, short and sweet, is Desserts Can Save the World. This is Christina Tozzi's new book. It came out in May of 2022. This is not a chef memoir. It was not exactly what I was hoping for. It is a uplifting book. It is filled with Tozzi's memories and stories of how she got to where she is today and how certain recipes and desserts had pinnacle moments in her life, and her belief that quite literally desserts can save the world. And it's really stemming from the idea that making desserts for others brings kindness and joy. Again, this wasn't exactly what I was hoping it would be, but it was a super cute book. And I think it's a great book if you want to get into nonfiction or you have no idea what food writing might be like. This is a really nice, light, cozy read to start with. I think it would actually be great in a read it and eat box. You get desserts, the book Desserts Can Save the World, and maybe I include a cream puff kit and you can learn to make your own matcha cream puffs or something. Another book that I have a full review for elsewhere on my channel is In the Weeds by Tom Vitale. I will link that review also up in the cards and down below. This is a great behind the scenes look of what it's like to be a producer and work with the late Tony Bourdain. This is a hard to read book in some ways because it's about, if you're a fan of Anthony Bourdain, for me, like, you are going to see the high highs of Tony Bourdain and the low lows of Tony Bourdain. But this will probably make my top 10 list at the end of the year because it's an important read. I thought it was a very good read, very heartfelt, because Tom starts writing this book right after right after Anthony has committed suicide or died by suicide. So it's very raw. It is very emotional, but I think it's a really great book. And if you want more details, my full thoughts, I have a full review, and you can get that down below and in the cards above. 2 books left. Next up is Zabarz. This is by Lori Zabarz, and this I actually read at the very beginning of the month. And this I talked about on my live show. It's a wonderful book about an immigrant family creating this legacy market. It's a story of America. Her family went from Eastern European immigrants to wildly successful business people in just a few generations. It's blurbed in the back by the Barefoot Contessa and Nicholas Heller and Marcus Samuelson. It is such a fun book. I really love these old school, and I'll try and get the cover to focus. These old school, timeless kind of family stores that have been in the family for multiple generations that still exist today. It's a place that people make the trip for in New York City to see. And it's written by Lori, a member of the family, someone who actually doesn't run within the day-to-day operations of Zabarz, but is still family. And I thoroughly love food stories like this. Show me the history of that corner store that's been around for so long, what it means to the community. I really, really liked this. This is also a 2022 release. And the final book I read this month is Getting Something to Eat in Jackson, Race, Class, and Food in the American South by Joseph C. Iwudzi Jr. I did a whole vlog on this. I don't think this wrap-up I think this wrap-up is going to come out before this vlog goes live, but I don't want to give too many spoilers. But this was one of the 3 books nominated for the 2022 James Beard Award in Food Writing. So I've been trying to read as many of the James Beard nominated books, and this was one of them. The other 2 were The Man Who Ate Too Much, which is a book about James Beard, and the other one was Franchise The Golden Arches, which was about McDonald's in Black South. This was a really powerful book, and it reveals decisions about what and how we eat unite and divide us along race, class, and culture. Iwudzi documents the foodways of Black Mississippians across the economic spectrum, from homeless men and middle-class drivers to single mothers and a mayoral candidate. What emerges is a memorable and lucid account of life and struggle, food and family in the modern American South. That's from the quote on the back by Matthew Desmond. It was so good, and it's so frustrating to read about how it is so hard for people to find good food and to get something to eat. And there's this notion that you think of Mississippi and you think of the South and you think of the civil rights movement and like stuck in time a little bit. And there are still food scarcity and food insecurity and things going on in Mississippi today. And it really harks back to like something very personal to me and why there's a donation component to fight hunger in my small business, Read It and Eat, because food is universal, hunger is universal, and it's not something in a world where we have surpluses of food that we burn because we can't sell it fast enough. That shouldn't exist in a world where people are still hungry. So Iwudzi goes I want to say undercover, but he shadows people for 6 months. He catches up with them later, and it's going across these different races and different class structures. It's just really hard to watch like a mother who's literally wondering each and every day where she's gonna feed, how she's gonna feed her kids, or how there's homeless people and there's such a system on which clinics and areas open for feeding at what time, and how they all schedule their days around it, and it makes it harder or wary for them to go to the doctor, because if they go to the doctor in a certain window and miss the meal window, they might not eat for another 12 to 16 hours. It is such an important book. I really, really encourage you guys to pick up the book, rent it. I listen to it as an audiobook. It's available on Scribd, or get it through your local library. This is such a powerful book, a really important thing to be reading about and be aware of. I really, really liked it. I'll have obviously that full reading vlog, up soon, so you'll get even more in-depth thoughts than what I'm paraphrasing for you right now. Okay, so those are the 7 books I read this month, in the month of June. Let me know in the comments below if any of these books interest you. Have you heard of Chef's Kiss? Would you consider reading Getting Something to Eat in Jackson? Or if you're just excited and you made it to the end of this video, drop me a bagel emoji down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way down to the comments. I post new videos every Tuesday and Saturday now that I'm out of this reading slump, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.